Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button and join the Couch Gang. And today we're going to be doing the 1-year review of my 2019 Golf R. So some of the things we're going to go over today is the overall value, the reliability, the performance, the options that I should have went with maybe, the utility, the cost, and was it worth it, and what are my thoughts, as well as some aftermarket thoughts. So let's get to it. So guys, the first thing we're going to go on a ride here, the first thing we're going to talk about is the overall value of the car, right? So I would say that for what it's for it being a sporty hatch, I mean, it does everything that it needs to do perfectly. I think it's fast, it's fun, it's reliable as a newer car. For the overall price is pretty good, especially with the amount of bonuses you get with this car, but the amount of options you can get with this car, and honestly, as a base car, the Golf R comes with a lot of just options with it, so you don't have to really upgrade much when you get it. But yeah, I mean, the overall value of this car, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason why I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 star is because I think if it was $2,000-3,000 less MSRP, it would be a 5-star. But I think for that $2,000-3,000, I think that it doesn't get to 5 stars, right? Because honestly, it gives you a lot, but it's just so much more expensive than the next car. Yeah, you do get those additional perks, but are they worth the difference in cost? And a lot of times they're not. So I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars for the overall value. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is reliability. So I do have to say that as a brand new car, it's in the last year, it's been super reliable, right? I mean, you can use it for so many different things. So and honestly, with things going wrong, everything's been good so far, right? The only thing I do have to say is that I've had some, I guess, minor issues. Like one time it said one of the my automatic light sensor was having an issue, but then that went away by itself. But they are things that you'd think a car that's barely a year old and it has now I have 12,000, almost 13,000 miles on it, you shouldn't have anything at all pop up at all ever, right? So even just a small thing like that is something just to keep an eye out for. So for reliability, I have to say, because I've had a small issue like that, I do also have to give it a 4 out of 5 at least, because of that reason, right? It's one of the things that when you get a brand new car, you don't want anything at all to happen, and that would be a 5 out of 5 star car, right? But when you have something like, oh, the sensor says something, or I think another time I had an issue with my tire pressure monitoring, not the system overall. I think it gave me an error message and I had to reset it. It's just things that you shouldn't have happen in a brand new car, right? There's no reason why it should be doing that. So I think that's it for reliability, 4 out of 5. So our next point here is performance. How does this car perform? So I'm going to talk about performance, not just in speed terms. I'm also going to talk about performance in like miles per gallon and that kind of thing, right? And how it does overall. So first of all, when it comes to how fast the car is and how much work you can do to it, there's a plethora of aftermarket for this car. It's just, there's just so much information out there. It's amazing, right? So that's great. I would say that with the upgrades you get, once you start upgrading the car, and even stock performance, it's really good. Definitely really good performance. I would say in a straight line, it's really good. When you start going around corners, it's not amazing. For the price, it's not amazing, right? There's definitely work that can be done there. But I would say for like a straight line performance, it's great stock. You can do a lot to it, and also quartering and things like that. If you work on the suspension, there's plenty of aftermarket for these cars. So if you're a guy like me that likes to do things to your car, it's perfect. Now let's go to the MPG aspect of things, right? So when it comes to just everyday life, this car will give you a pretty good MPG. I mean, I think my average is 28, 28 and a half, and that's what I'll also get on the highway. There's not much difference between highway and city driving with this car. It does a really good job at giving you good MPG for both, and they're both around the 28 mark. So, and that's with a stage 1 tune on E30. That's where I'm at currently. So even with a tune and some modifications, you're still getting 28 mpg, which I think is awesome, right? Like, to have a car that's in the 300s to the wheels. I'm guessing I'm just assuming this is probably 350 now, maybe less or more, but right around there, and it doing 28 miles per gallon. I mean, honestly, that's incredible in my opinion. um so I mean, I think, like, as for performance overall, I would also give it, I would actually say closer to 4.5 out of 5, because you do get the aftermarket capability, the availability of the aftermarket. You do get the MPG, you get the day-to-day performance. The car behaves well, but the half point that I have to deduct is because I think out of factory, out of stock, in stock form, the car should come with a little more something. I mean, I feel like when it was stock, it was missing something. I think maybe the variable exhaust should have been a little louder when you put it in sport mode stock. I think, like, small things like that. Maybe they could have tuned it a little more aggressively. Not mandatory, but I mean, I think there's things here and there they could have done that would have made it a little more fun, right? So I would say 4.5 out of 5 for performance. So one of the things, one of the bullet points I have is actually options, right? Like, what should I have gotten instead of what I did, right? What are my thoughts behind the options that this car comes with? So let's just break out the first thing. That I think this is the most important thing, is auto versus manual. I ended up getting the manual car, even though I did look at autos, because I just thought, I'm still at that point in my life where I want a fun car. I still want a manual. We don't have kids, nothing like that, so I'm okay with making the sacrifice of owning a manual, right? However, these cars, when you buy them stock, they work fine, but with a manual, as soon as you start doing any work to your car, giving it any more power, it just doesn't work. It needs a better clutch, right? So if you get a manual, so I had to immediately upgrade the clutch to a stage 2. I got a stage 2 South Bend endurance clutch just to handle stage 1 E30 tune, right? And you wouldn't want that. Why do I have to immediately upgrade my clutch with just some bolt-ons, right? And I think that, in my opinion, if I could go back, I might have been better off with the auto, because you don't have to get a clutch. You do have to get you don't have to, but you can get a DSG tune for the autos. And not only the auto's faster than the manual, you can tune it, and you don't have to spend the money on the clutch, right? So I guess, like, if I could go back in my case, I think I might have went with the auto. I still have a great time with this car with the manual, but I could have saved some money. It would have been easier to deal with on a day-to-day. But I guess that's one of the major options that I would suggest you think about over and over before, right? Auto or manual, because the manual will require you to do work to it as soon as you do anything else, right? As soon as you add power, you got to get a clutch, right? You don't have to, but your clutch is going to probably slip. It's going to break over time pretty quickly. So because the stock clutches in these cars are not great. So that's, I guess, one of the options I would recommend to get immediately. First option, auto versus manual, I just went over. Now, other stuff, honestly, just make sure when you get one of these that they put all seasons on them. They sell with performance summer tires, which I get it, it's the R, but I mean, in places, if you live in a climate where you can run summer all year, fine. But if you live, like, in Michigan, I should have just asked the dealer to swap them out before I even bought it to all seasons, because I had to end up buying all season tires. I did sell my old tires, so it was okay. But, still, I mean, you don't want to go through that. So one of the things is just make sure that they put all seasons on these cars when you get them, so you don't have to swap them out unless you live, again, in a climate that allows it. Otherwise, I mean, other options, the car I got has the navigation and everything. That's comfortable. I barely use it because it has Apple CarPlay. But these cars base come with everything you really need. I wouldn't suggest really upgrading anything other than just the transmission, getting the DSG if you can, and the tires. Just make sure they're all seasons. So I think that's it for options.
All right, so another bullet point I wanted to bring up was utility, right? So I think this car does utility very well. It's a hot hatch, right? So for what the car is, it does a great job. It's all-wheel drive. You can get through a lot with it as long as the surface you're driving on is flat, of course. Like you can go in dirt, you can go in snow, no problem at all, right? However, when it comes to, you know, of course, like if there's obstacles that you have to overcome vertically, it's not an off-roader, right? So in that sense, it does a really good job for what it's made for. And otherwise, it's a hot hatch, so it's got a hatchback, which is awesome because you can do a lot with it. Putting the seats down, you know, we had to just move, and it was super useful to be able to put the seats down and fit things that are not just long but also tall. So you know, you can put a lot in the car and make use of it that way. And then when it comes to the hatch, it's a lot more useful than, say, a sedan would be. But of course, it's not going to be as useful as an SUV or something larger that also has a hatch, or like a, you know, of course, a truck, things like that. So, but I think the utility portion, it does its job perfectly. So I'd give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
So another bullet point is cost. For cost, see, as I said in the beginning, I rated it at a 4 out of 5 because it could be a little bit cheaper, you know, but you do get a lot for the car. So for the car, you know, for the cost, I would also give it a 4.5 out of 5 because at the end of the day, you know, it really just depends on the dealer, but MSRP is usually a little high on these cars. It could be a little lower, but you know, dealers will give you a deal, so it's not that bad. So I'd say 4 out of 5 is good. So my last bullet point here is just my overall thoughts on the car, right? So I would say the only complaint I have, and this is not the car, you know, it's more so just the color I picked for the car. So the car's black, and in the beginning of the video, I left it on purpose the way it is on a day-to-day, and meaning as soon as I wash it, I drive it for, you know, an hour or two, and it gets dusty immediately because it just shows so much more, right? So that's one thing that I would suggest. If you're getting a car like this after 1 year of ownership, don't get the black one unless it's always in a garage, but or you just want it for pictures, because when you first wash it, it looks amazing, but then after like a little bit, it gets dirty immediately. So that's one of the things. One of the things I did want to show you guys real quick here before we went on is the interior, right? The interior of this car is super cool. However, the complaint I do have is that they only offer, or most of them, I just can't remember this right now, but they come with this glossy stuff, and it's so easy for your car to look dirty. So I guess like if there was more options for this trim, you know, maybe carbon fiber, or just, I don't know, just different options. Maybe that's something, like an option I would have went with. Also, there's not much space here to fit stuff. Like if I put my iPhone Max in there, like I can't close this. So, and if I can, like the cord gets stuck, and so there's no cutouts here, so like you're damaging your cord if you want to keep this closed to keep everything in there, because like if you have stuff in there and you accelerate pretty quick, the stuff will slide out till here. So this compartment should have been either larger, or at least have a cutout here for your cord. And then another thing I want to mention is a lot of people, this wears off and they get themselves cut. Mine hasn't done that, luckily, in a year, so I haven't had that issue, but that's something to look out for when you're buying a used one. And then the cup holders are fine. You know, I put my key here, you know, it kind of fits, and then, you know, they're fine. But I wanted to show you, like, I left it dirty so I could show you how easy, like, that I think was a little bit of coffee, but it's just so visible because of that black coloring, or just like fingerprints on the black stuff here, and dust is so easy to see. So now we're gonna actually go clean it, but just want to show you guys that. So as I was saying, overall, this car is just amazing. There's not one day I go regretting the decision to buy this car. Of course, if you can afford it, and if it's one of the top contenders, you know, it's definitely, you know, a car I would purchase again, right? So overall, I mean, you know, it stays in that 4.5 to 5 star range, in my opinion. It's an amazing car, and the only way that, you know, once I sell this car is just when I have to get an upgrade or something completely different, right? So if I'm gonna get a hatch, you know, I would get this car. And if I just had to switch up completely what I wanted to go with, then that's the only reason why I wouldn't pick this car as you know, the car I would purchase. So you know, I really hope you guys like this video. If you have any other questions, leave it in the comments. You know, I'm pretty quick at replying. And again, if you like the videos, give a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the Couch Gang. I'll catch you guys later.